But I have to lead this Thursday show by continuing to talk about the fallout from Alabama, Tennessee. Alabama loses at Tennessee. It's a great game. Everybody enjoyed the heck out of it, unless you're an Alabama fan. 17 million people watched it. But over the course of this week, it is clear. I saw three different things that make it very clear to me that everybody surrounding Alabama football, the fans, the players, the coaches, everybody's looking for answers to try and figure out what's wrong with Alabama. And I think more importantly, they're trying to figure out, can we get this thing fixed before it's too late? And it's funny, right? I was thinking about this kind of just as I was prepping for the show and all that, and really watching everything going on at Alabama. You know, I started doing this professionally in around the fall of 2009, okay? And I bring that up. It's an interesting date for me to have begun doing this professionally, because that was the year Nick Saban won his first national championship at Alabama. And so if you kind of take from the time that I started and really followed this sport and sports in general on a day-to-day basis from a professional perspective, it's interesting because there's never really been a moment in time quite like this for Alabama. Now, they haven't been great or perfect in every single game since I started doing this, since Alabama won its first national championship. 2010, they take a little bit of a dip. They go 10-3, but then they immediately bounce back with back-to-back national championships in 2010 and 2011 and 2012, excuse me. And from there, this thing just kind of really picked up steam. And they certainly, again, haven't won a national championship every year, but usually they're in the hunt. Usually if they lose, it is to a not strange circumstance, but a unique circumstance. Either a player has a otherworldly performance like a Cam Newton, like a Johnny Manziel. Maybe you lose to a Joe Burrow and LSU when Tua's basically playing on one leg. Remember, he had the ankle injury that year. Or it's late in the playoff when you're playing an Ohio State or a Clemson that's just a really good football team. And so just to be clear, we're not doing the dynasty is dead, it's all over. And Alabama, again, can still win the national championship this year. Everything that they want to do is still on the table. And it is always important to note that this was a team that lost in October in a big road game last year to Texas A&M and still played for a national championship. But at the same time, I saw some stuff this week that makes it very clear to me that this feels different, that this is a program that right now is they're not only not living up to our outside expectations, but to use a Nick Sabanism, they're not living up to the expectations internally inside the program. Too many penalties, too many mistakes, fear when they take the field. And I think what I've seen over the last week or so since the Tennessee loss is a program that everybody is looking for answers. The fans, the coaches, the players. Let's get into it. First of all, let me say this. The first thing and the most surprising thing to me, and I don't want to lump every single Alabama fan into this category, the number of Alabama fans that are just completely blaming the refs for Saturday's loss. Now, listen, I don't think the refs were perfect. I think there was a couple plays that were iffy, that were 50-50, that were this or that could have gone either way. But one, there were some other calls that could have gone against Tennessee. Two, I do find it very interesting that Alabama fans and Alabama in general are the ones that are upset with the refs when for the last 10 years, all I've heard from 13 other SEC fan bases is that Alabama gets all the breaks. But outside of that, it has been weird to me to see the reaction of Alabama fans. I've seen some Alabama fans, some media kind of claiming there's video of a ref like clenching his fist as if he's celebrating calling a play against Alabama. Alabama fans, can you stop it with the blaming of the refs? Now, this was more of a Monday, Tuesday thing, but we need to reiterate. Alabama fans, stop blaming the refs, okay? You want to know why you lost the game? It wasn't the guys in stripes. It was the guys in crimson and white. You committed 17 penalties. You gave the best offense in college football 130 extra yards of offense. Oh, by the way, gave up 21 points in the first quarter, 28 points at the half. You missed a field goal late. Your coaches did not manage the clock well late. Do not tell me it's the refs. Even if you should have had 15 penalties instead of 17, you didn't lose the game because of the refs. You lost the game because of the 85 guys in crimson and white. And so stop selling me that it's the refs' fault that you lost this game. So one, I'm not blaming all Alabama fans, but I am saying, man, it's just not a good look. It's not a good look for a program that's won probably 90% or so of its games over the last 15 years. What I would also say is you could tell something's not right with the players, right? I mean, first of all, we have the Jermaine Burton situation still developing as I record here. But I think everybody kind of knows the gist of what Jermaine Burton did. I think we all kind of saw the video. For those of you who haven't, Jermaine Burton, highly touted wide receiver as a transfer coming in this year from Georgia. And what happened with Jermaine Burton? Walking off the field, we have a video of him appearing to strike a woman in the face. I don't know. The video to me is grainy. I'm not going to use the word punch. I'm not going to use the word slap. It's tough to see, but it appears as though there is something there. So one, that's just not very Alabama-like. And I know some non-Alabama fans will disagree. Listen, this is a program that from everything I remember, and maybe you guys and girls that are A&M fans or Tennessee fans or Auburn fans or Georgia fans have different memories. This is generally a program that, in my opinion, from the outside, it appears as though they've lost with class. Every time I remember Alabama losing, Nick Saban walks to the podium. Joe Burrow was incredible. Johnny Manziel was incredible. Clemson's well coached, this, that. And Nick Saban did that after the game on Saturday. But to have a player act out in this way, I mean, it just speaks to there's clearly friction. There's clearly frustration within the locker room. And I'll say this too. I don't think Nick Saban handled the Jermaine Burton situation very well. As I got set to record here, Wednesday night into Thursday, we get a statement from Nick Saban. This is being handled internally. Now, he said earlier in the day, I'm going to collect all the facts. Well, apparently he collected enough facts where it's going to be handled internally, which to me, not going to lie, feels a lot like Coach K. Remember Coach K with the Grayson Allen thing 4, 5, 6 years ago? We're going to handle this internally. Indefinite suspension. We're going to figure out this is what we do here. And I'm not saying Nick Saban has to throw the guy off the team. But what I am saying is it's really, really, really bad. It's never okay to put your hands on another person, especially a female if you're a male. I'd like a little more from Nick Saban than this is going to be handled internally. Could you at least give me the Coach K, we're going to give Jermaine an indefinite suspension so we can collect all the facts? Can you give me something a little more stern than this is what we're going to do? And then you want to take it to another level. This is the worst part. Nick Saban blamed fans rushing the field for his players' actions. Here is what he said about the Jermaine Burton suspension, or not even suspension. He said, we're going to handle it internally. This is what he said. He said, we handle discipline issues internally, and that's the way we'll handle this. Not a fan of that for me personally. But then he said on top of that, he goes, but as I said today, when I was asked about it, the league has tried to control people from rushing the field. It's a difficult circumstance for the league, difficult circumstances for the people on the field, but we have to go through these difficult circumstances and still respect other people. I think that's on us to do that, and that's a lesson for all of us to learn relative to this. 2 quick thoughts on that. 3. I tend to agree, but you're never going to stop fans from rushing the field. That's 1. 2, I do think we have to respect other people, but the guy that didn't show respect was his own player. And 3, no matter what you say, no matter how you say it, this looks like you're blaming a player potentially striking a fan on the field for fans rushing the field. No, it's never okay, Nick Saban. It's never okay to do that. I think this looks incredibly weak. Finally, what I would say, it's been a bad week. But did you see what Will Anderson said the other day? Because this, out of everything, speaks to what I've been saying for weeks. This Bama team isn't right. And it doesn't mean that they can't figure it out. And it doesn't mean that they can't win a national championship. But did you see what Will Anderson said this week? Here is what Will Anderson said when he was asked about the Tennessee game. And by the way, this followed on Monday. Nick Saban admitted, he said when he was walking out of the tunnel with his guys, he basically said that they weren't cheering, they weren't hooting, they weren't hollering. I said, guys, what's the matter? Here's what Will Anderson said. He said, most definitely, I think we probably just had a lot of anxiety. We didn't have the same intensity that we had a couple of weeks ago. We definitely needed that to carry over to this game, but the intensity just wasn't where it needed to be. When asked why the intensity was missing, probably, just like I said, just having a little bit of anxiety for the game. A big road game. Okay, a couple things here. Say it all the time. Anxiety is a serious word. I do not make light of mental health. I do not make fun of it. This is not what I'm doing, okay? I've told you over and over and over again, multiple family members work in the mental health space. I have nothing but respect for mental health. But the fact that Will Anderson used the word anxiety, there was stress, there was fear about going into an opponent's stadium, That's not the Alabama I know. The only fear that the previous generation had was for the other team. The only concern they had was if they were going to have to play in the fourth quarter or not. That's not the Alabama that I know. Anxiety for the game, a big road game. You live for big road games if you're Alabama. And so I can go on, but you guys get the point. I'm yelling and screaming because I'm so fired up because I see a great football team that wants to be, that has the potential to be one of the great teams Nick Saban has ever had. And it's just not there, and it's all in their heads. You know what I was thinking on Wednesday? You know how for the last probably year, we've been saying Georgia's the new Bama? Georgia's the new Bama. In other words, they're the team that strikes fear in everybody. They're coming to rip your heart out. I tend to agree with that. You know who Bama is? Georgia's the new Bama. Bama's the old Georgia. Bama is the old Georgia. What do I mean by that? Georgia, for years, big game. They didn't have the confidence. They didn't have the belief that they were going to go out and win it. We all remember the games. Lose to Bama in the title game. Lose to Bama in the SEC championship game a year after. Lose to LSU. Lose to Bama last year in the SEC championship game. They get over that hump. They win the national championship. I don't think they're perfect. I don't think they're close to last year. I don't think they're better than Bama this year. But they don't play with fear. And that's what I see from Alabama. And so to answer the question, this is a weird time. And I do think everybody's looking for answers. I do think fans are looking for answers. I do think the coaching staff is looking for answers. I don't know if they're going to get them. You have the fan base on edge. You have the players doing things that they shouldn't be doing. And you have players talking about anxiety. You have a team captain, a first-round pick. And I love Will Anderson. I bet him to win the Heisman. A lot of money. I'm going to lose on that bet. But the point I'm trying to make, this is not the Bama that we know. And until I see that killer instinct come back, has to start with Mississippi State this weekend. Out of the bye, you got to go to LSU and make a point. You got to go to Ole Miss and make a point. Because this Alabama team that I see, this is not the Alabama team that I know. And I think I'm one of many people that is looking for answers with this team.